Good evening and welcome to the Rocket Lab broadcast for the Viva La StriX mission, our next Electron launch for constellation operator Synspective. It is a beautiful clear evening over Launch Complex 1 at 9:16 p.m. here in New Zealand as we count down to liftoff for Electron's 9th launch of the year and our 9th mission for Synspective's Earth imaging constellation. My name is Muriel Baker and I'm joining you from our Mission Control Centre in New Zealand alongside my co-host Julian Spice to take you through tonight's mission.
Thank you very much, Muriel. It's great to be here for Electron number 88. We're about 15 minutes away from our targeted liftoff time of 9:33 p.m. New Zealand or 0933 UTC. For our viewers in the States, that's a very early 5:33 a.m. Eastern and 2:33 a.m. Pacific. At this stage, weather conditions are cooperating beautifully, and all vehicle, payload, and ground systems are reporting green across the board. We've got a 1-hour launch window this evening, with liftoff set for right at the top of that window.
If this is your first time watching our webcast, today's mission is the latest in our multi-year series of launches for Synspective, which is a satellite operator from Japan building a constellation of satellites that can provide high-resolution radar imaging data. These are known as SAR satellites or synthetic aperture radar. Now, Viva La StriX will be the 9th time we've launched for Synspective to a 45-degree orbit, this time on a mostly circular trajectory with a 572-kilometre apogee and a 545-kilometre perigee.
Yes, and unlike optical satellites that rely on sunlight, SAR satellites can capture images day or night and through cloud cover using radio waves to create images of landscape and objects. Those detailed pictures are used across industries for urban development, construction and infrastructure monitoring, and responding to disasters. So let's hear more from Synspective.
We are developing and operating the synthetic aperture radar satellite to understand our Earth scientifically, quantitatively, and rethink about the economic activity, climate change, or disaster mitigation. Then we provide the insight and needed information to the governmental users and the private sector's users.
The SAR satellite can operate without light at any time of the day, even at night, or even when there's rain, to detect objects on the ground. We are able to play a role very much in weather adverse scenarios, for example, in flooding, in typhoons.
We work on using the disaster damage assessment solution to quickly output some disaster area estimation to send to local agencies so they can use it for the local relief.
And also we can expand the collaboration with other sensors, maybe comes from our partner companies, to accelerate the resilient world. So I think a very hopeful approach.
Our launches for Synspective began all the way back in 2020, and we've been the company's sole launch provider ever since. So it's great to be right back to it with the latest StriX satellite ready for launch once again from LC-1. In fact, we have another 18 missions booked on Electron to deliver the rest of their constellation to orbit before the end of the decade.
Viva La StriX indeed. Otherwise, we are now past 13 minutes on the clock and we're coming up on the critical go, no-go poll that will be run by today's launch director, Michael Pearson. Now, this is the moment in the countdown where each console position in mission control is polled individually for their system and asked whether they are go and ready for flight or no-go if something needs attention. So that's everyone from propulsion and avionics through to range safety, weather, mission management, ground station comms, and the executive team.
That is right, and only when each station says go and the launch director confirms the poll is complete will we move ahead with the final countdown toward Electron's launch this evening. So let's listen into the poll.
All stations LD on mission, proceeding with the go, no, go sequence. Stage.
Stages go.
Avionics.
Avionics is go.
GNC.
GNC's go.
VCon.
VCon is go.
T1.
T1 is go.
GC,
GC is go.
PLS,
PLS is go.
RSO,
RSO is go.
MET,
Met is go.
MM,
MM is go.
FAN,
Fan is go.
LSO,
LSO is go.
and LD sub.
LD sub is go.
And the go no go sequence is complete. We are T minus 11 minutes, 11 seconds, and counting. We are go for terminal count auto sequence at T minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-word procedure is in effect.
Good news and a clean sweep across the consoles to move ahead with tonight's launch attempt. So that T0 liftoff time remains 9:33 p.m. New Zealand local time or 09:33 UTC.
Now, tonight's Electron rocket is our usual 2-stage to orbit launch vehicle with a slightly different fairing than normal. Electron's nose cone is built to accommodate the wide body of the StriX satellite, which is a custom solution we've rolled out for a few launches now, which means satellite operators don't have to build to the constraints of a standard fairing option. Otherwise, from the arrowhead fairing down across Electron, our carbon composite rocket is in its usual 2-stage configuration. That includes 9 engines at the bottom of the first stage and a 10th engine made specifically for space attached to the second stage. And in case you didn't know, that Rutherford engine is actually the world's first 3D printed battery-powered rocket engine.
That's right. And in fact, our 1000th Rutherford engine recently rolled off the production line at our engine development complex in Long Beach, California, a very cool milestone. Now, their electric pumps are driven by batteries, and we use additive manufacturing to create Rutherford's thrust chamber, injector pumps, and main propellant valves for a turnaround time of around 1 engine every day.
Oof.
There is also an 11th engine on board that's called Curie, which is part of the propulsion system behind Electron's kick stage. And that's the platform that sits on top of the second stage with the mission's payload. You can see it right there. The kick stage can change its speed and direction to adjust orbital altitudes and inclinations depending on the mission, and it's even able to carry and deploy multiple satellites into different orbits on the same launch. Now, across both of Electron's stages, we load 12,000 kilograms of liquid oxygen and kerosene propellant for the Rutherford engines. That gets us all the way through to delivery of the kick stage to orbit.
And if you were curious, where Electron looks white is where the liquid oxygen inside its carbon composite tank is causing any moisture on the outside of the rocket to freeze. And the venting you see near the top is the release of liquid oxygen buildup as the tanks fill and circulate. Now, those release valves will close after we enter the auto sequence and we execute our final prop press, which will all go down about 7 minutes from now.
So while that prop load continues, we're actually going to shift focus from Electron for just a few moments to what is the latest with Neutron, our medium-lift reusable rocket that we are preparing for launch later this year. Because there has been lots of exciting activity across propulsion testing for its Archimedes engine, with both Stage 1 and Stage 2 vacuum versions being tested across the full range of gimbal angles out at Stennis Space Center in Mississippi.
Yes, and meanwhile, at another one of our facilities, we've been simulating stage separation with test articles of Neutron Stage 1 and 2. How we separate those stages is probably Neutron's most novel capability. We hang its second stage inside the first stage before it's deployed along interior rails and out the mouth of the Hungry Hippo fairing. Doing it this way means we can keep Neutron's fairing halves attached to the first stage and bring them back to Earth in one piece for reuse on another flight without having to fish them out of the ocean or use another method to collect them first.
It's pretty cool to see it all coming together across our different sites. So here is a quick recap with the highlights of the action taking place for Neutron.
Stage TV on LV.
TV stage.
Prepare, unlock, separation locks.
Unlocking separation locks in 3, 2, 1, mark.
Executing test in 3, 2, 1, mark.
So much awesome neutron activity lately, and there is so much more to come in the weeks and months ahead before the full vehicle comes together in Wallops Island in Virginia, and we can't wait to see it.
All right, we are now inside 5.5 minutes to launch for Viva La StriX on Electron. But before we enter the terminal count that begins at T-minus 2 minutes, Electron will have completed its last liquid oxygen top-up to account for any boil-off of the propellant during these final preparations.
And right at the T-minus 2 minute mark, Electron's onboard flight computer assumes control of the countdown to run through its pre-programmed launch checklist autonomously. The system that looks after Electron's safety parameters, called the AFTS, or Autonomous Flight Termination System, is also armed around this time. Both stages are brought up to their final flight pressure levels for the launch, and then you'll hear that call out within the T-minus 1 minute mark. Then it is on to two final call-outs from the launch director, one at T-minus 20 seconds and another at T-minus 10 seconds to liftoff.
And because T0 marks the moment Electron begins rising, the Rutherford engines actually light up a few seconds earlier to build to full thrust before the rocket is released from the pad, and that usually takes place at T-minus 2 seconds. We're just moments away from those final actions now, so we're going to bring up the audio channels from Mission Control to listen in, and then we'll both be back with you after liftoff. Go Electron, go Synspective, and go StriX.
LD, GC mission cord.
GC, LD.
Hold down mechanisms armed. Pad auto sequence is armed. Pad ready for launch.
Copy, thank you. All stations LD on mission. From now, there should be no red flags on your critical LCCs. VCON LD mission.
LD VCON.
Lock auto sequence and confirm.
Auto sequence is locked.
Confirm all flight computer ASGOs are green.
All ASGOs are green.
And all stations, we are go for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LD is go for launch.
Vehicle is fully on internal power. AFTS is green and enabled for flight.
ECS is disabled.
Lock slot is complete. System is in recirculation. Anti-geyser is disabled. Stage 1 and 2 tanks suppressed.
High flow engine purge enabled.
T minus 20 seconds and counting. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
Are we listening to the pad? Sitting on the pad? Beginning pitch over.
Stage 1 propulsion nominal.
Liftoff for Electron and Viva La StriX, now on its way to orbit for the 9th time from LC-1 for Synspective. And we are 43 seconds into flight now with our first milestone coming up, and that will be max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure, which is the moment when the combination of Electron's velocity and the atmosphere's density creates the greatest amount of stress against the rocket. So let's listen now for the call out from GNC in Mission Control.
Supersonic, approaching max Q. Cleared max Q.
You heard it there. We have cleared max Q on our way to Leo for Synspective. Electron is now more than 16 kilometers above Earth and traveling at more than 1,900 kilometers an hour. That's thanks to those 9 Rutherford engines at the bottom of Electron's first stage, which are more than halfway through their expected burn time before we reach our first stage separation milestone. What that involves is MECO, stage separation, and then engine ignition for the second Rutherford engine.
MECO comes first, which is when the first stage power pack shuts down just a couple of seconds before the second stage is released. Then once it's cleared some distance from the first stage, the Rutherford engine on the second stage lights up. And we'll be able to see those moments live on our screen from the onboard camera feed, and they're expected to start in just a few seconds. So let's watch and listen now.
15 seconds till staging.
Entered burned out detect mode.
MECO confirmed.
Stage separation confirmed.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
Wow, excellent performance by Electron there through MECO, stage sep, and second stage engine ignition. That Rutherford engine on Electron's second stage there is running beautifully as expected. That means the next event on the mission timeline is fairing separation, which we're expecting that to take place in just a few seconds.
Fairing jettison confirmed.
And there you have it, with fairing jettison confirmed. Right there on your screen is the latest StriX satellite by Synspective, getting ready to deploy to low Earth orbit as the 9th satellite in their constellation. But before that happens, we've got just 6 minutes or so of engine burn time for the second stage before we separate the kick stage for its phase of the mission.
Stage 2 propulsion nominal.
The Rutherford engine that is powering this second stage is essentially the same as the 9 we saw on the first stage. So same 3D printed architecture, same battery powered pumps, but with one main difference in the expanded nozzle that is better suited to the vacuum conditions of space. The other difference is that this engine needs to run for a bit longer than the first stage engines did, and that means more battery power to keep it going. So, what Electron does is perform a battery hot swap maneuver in the middle of that engine run, and that is something that is unique to the Rutherford and how we operate Electron.
Today, that battery hot swap is scheduled to take place at around 6.5 minutes into flight, so not too much longer to go now. What will happen then is that old battery pack will be ejected from the second stage, which you should see happen on screen in real time. So keep an eye on that silver object on the right-hand side of your screen. That's all coming up in just a few seconds.
Guidance is nominal, 200 seconds remaining.
HVB discharge holding nominal, approaching hot swap in 30 seconds.
Throttling down.
Battery jettison confirmed.
Hot swap successful.
You heard it there, battery hot swap successful for the Rutherford engine, and that completes one of the final few actions left on the second stage for this mission. So what comes next is the release of the kick stage from stage 2, but we've got another couple of minutes until that's expected to happen right around the T+9 minute mark. Otherwise, stage 2 is powering on nominally, now at more than 196 kilometers above Earth and traveling at more than 17,000 kilometers an hour.
T plus 7.5 minutes into the mission now. Electron is exactly where we want it to be on its trajectory to LEO force inspective before we hit kick stage separation from the second stage. The moment that second stage completes its burn and separates, the kick stage takes over the final leg of the journey to orbit. It's released into a highly elliptical transfer orbit to start with, which is oval shaped with a low point closest to Earth called the perigee and a high point called the apogee. The kick stage's Curie engine then executes a precisely timed burn that adds velocity to lift the perigee to match the StriX's satellite requirements for an almost circular orbit.
Now, timing and how long the Curie engine burn lasts for is crucial. If the engines fire too early or too late, we could end up in the wrong orbit for the mission. But that is what the kick stage's guidance computer is designed to prevent. It calculates the exact delta V, or change in velocity, that is needed based on orbital mechanics, which can be a change anywhere from tens to over 100 meters per second of velocity, depending on that final orbit. Then once we reach that desired final state, the kick stage is ready to deploy its payload exactly where Synspective needs it to be. And all in all, the time between kick stage, separation and payload deployment ends up being just under an hour.
SECO confirmed.
Nominal transfer orbit achieved.
Stage separation confirmed.
perfect. That is the exact performance we were looking for from the second stage. So that is a successful SECO and stage separation, and the kick stage is now on its way toward payload deployment with that StriX satellite force inspective. Now, the kick stage is in its elliptical coast phase for another 45 minutes or so before the Curie engine fine-tunes the trajectory into a circular path above Earth.
We've got some time up our sleeves until the business end of the launch, and that's payload deployment. So for now, we'll be taking a short break while we track the kick stage around the other side of the globe in its 44.89 degree inclination. At T plus 53 minutes, we'll have Curie engine ignition, and we'll be back with commentary to close out the launch just after. So stick around and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to our coverage for the Viva La StriX mission on Electron's 88th launch. We're in the final moments before we deploy the latest StriX satellite, Force Inspective, our 9th mission together to build their Earth observation constellation in Leo. Today's launch took place just under an hour ago with a beautiful clean ascent from Launch Complex 1 in New Zealand with all the usual milestones, including engine shutdown and stage separation between the first and second stage, and the second stage and kick stage carrying the StriX satellite.
Now, since then, the kick stage has been coasting around Earth in an elliptical transfer orbit before its Curie engine ignited to course correct the mission for its 572-kilometer apogee for deployment. Now, with that engine burn almost over, we are getting ready to shut down Curie and deploy a StriX satellite from the kick stage for the 9th time for this constellation.
Curie cutoff confirmed.
Nominal final orbit achieved.
Confirmation from the operator there in mission control. Our Curie engine has shut down and we are seconds away from payload deployment. So we've got an animation of that sequence to watch while we listen in real time to mission control for updates. Let's bring that up now.
Payload separation confirmed.
Payload deployment confirmed, and that is mission success for the 9th time for Electron and Synspective in low Earth orbit. Viva La StriX! Welcome to orbit once again, Synspective, as satellite commissioning begins to bring this StriX satellite into constellation. We'd just like to say it's an honor to work with you time and time again to deliver your mission to space.
So that is 9 down and still another 18 missions to go, which means it won't be long until we see another StriX back on the pad with Electron for launch. And if what you've seen today has you excited for the future, then you should check out some of the open roles we have at Rocket Lab. Our team is always looking for new talent, from scientists to technicians and accountants to IT support. So head to rocketlabcareers.com to learn more about what it takes to join the best in making a difference in space.
And don't forget to drop us a follow and keep an eye out on our social media channels and website for where to find info about our next launch, because it'll be sooner than you expect. We look forward to you joining us again soon. This is Rocket Lab Mission Control signing off.